Hey everyone, welcome back to another World of Warcraft Dragonflight Alpha video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new talent trees for Frost Mage. If you haven't seen my first video for Mage, which was for the Fire Mage, I'd encourage you to go check that out because I do deep dive into the class side of the talent tree in that video, which we will not be doing here. We'll be focused on just the specialization tree in the interest of making the video a little bit shorter. As we go through the talent trees, we're going to be taking a look at the different stuff that is available there and looking at it with an eye towards creating a build that will work well in open world content, questing, leveling, solo play, stuff like that. Before we get started, please leave a thumbs up or a like on the video if you're enjoying this content. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of this guide series and whether or not you'd like to see more content from me beyond the alpha for Dragonflight. I'm using your feedback to help me determine whether or not I want to continue making videos for WoW after these initial sort of alpha videos. All right, so we are going to jump into this, and it looks like we are Spec Frost, and our baseline talent here is going to be Ice Barrier. So the barrier did change. This was Flame Barrier, Fire Barrier, whatever it's called, when we were on Fire Mage. So it looks like we do have Ice Barrier now, which is going to absorb some damage and reduce the movement speed of our attackers by 50%. So we're going to jump into our spellbook and take a look at the abilities we have available without investing any talent points. As we go through this, I'm going to assume you have a working knowledge of Frost Mage. I'm not going to dive into every single ability, talent, etc. As we go, but mainly look at the stuff that looks new or the stuff that I need a refresher on. All right, so we do have Arcane Explosion. We've got our Arcane Intellect buff. We have Blink, Conjure Refreshment, Counterspell, Fire Blast, Frost Nova, Frost Bolt, Polymorph. We've got our portal spells, we've got slow fall, teleports, and we do have access to time warp. In the frost side of the tree, we have Ice Barrier. And then we also have our mastery Icicles. So casting Frostbolt or Flurry grants you Icicle. Casting Ice Lance causes all icicles stored to begin launching at the target, dealing frost damage. Up to 5 icicles can be stored. Any excess icicles gained will automatically be launched at the target. This also increases the damage of Frozen Orb by 40%. So we still have the icicle mechanic going here. All right, let's jump into our talent tree. We're going to do roughly the same kind of talent build we did for Fire with a couple of tweaks here, I think, to change things. So we're going to take Shatter. And then we're going to go into Remove Curse. And we don't need to take Slow this time because we are going to be using Frostbolt, which is going to reduce movement speed. We could take Slow, but I just think for some additional utility, we'll actually take Spell Steal in order to get into our Incanter's flow here. So we'll take that. I think we are going to go ahead and pick up Ice Block, and we're going to boost our Frost Nova, and then we'll go into Mirror Image, and the 1 point left we're going to chuck into I actually think we're going to put it into the cooldown reduction on Ice Block. All right, we're going to pick up Incanter's Flow. We could put it into Invisibility. Actually, let's put it into Invisibility. It'll just give us an extra sort of defensive we can use. All right, Incanter's Flow. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pick up the Ice Block Heal. We're going to pick up the Mirror Image Heal, Critical Strike Chance. We're going to increase the duration on Frost Nova. We're going to pick up Ice Nova for an additional way to freeze. We're going to pick up Shimmer. And then I think we're going to go ahead and pick up... let's do the cooldown reduction on Ice Block. All right, from here, I do think we're going to go into Frigid Winds. And then we can pick up Ring of Frost or Ice Ward. I think for now, to keep it simple, we're just going to pick up Ice Ward. And then we will go ahead and grab Shifting Power. All right, and then I think we'll throw the last points into our cooldown reduction on Ice Block. So it's going to look something a little bit like this. All right, so really all we did here was we took some points. We got rid of this side of the tree over here and went for this side, which helps us with our snares and gives us some more ways to freeze targets. And then also along the way, we kind of converted some of the points we invested in fire into increasing the damage we do to frozen targets and boosting Frost Nova. Now, I think another totally valid pick here would be Cone of Cold. And maybe with the additional points we get from being max level, we could grab like Cone of Cold, maybe put some investment into our barriers, things like that. So we'll have to see how it goes. All right, so let's get into the frost side of the tree. So we are going to take a look first at our active abilities, which are going to be the ones in the boxes here. Then we're going to take a look at any choice nodes we have, which are the ones with the arrows. And then we're going to come back through and we'll look at the actual passive nodes, which are these circular ones here, as we create our build. Okay, so we have to take Ice Lance, which makes sense as we know our passive Mastery is going to create icicles, and then Ice Lance is going to fire all the icicles at the targets. The damage of Ice Lance is going to be tripled against frozen targets. We also have multiplied critical strike chance of spells against frozen targets, and adds an additional critical strike chance as well. So that's going to hopefully help us to get some really hard Ice Lance hits against frozen targets. Moving into that, we have Frozen Orb, which is our little spinny orb we can throw out. And we also have Blizzard, our AoE ability. Then we have Flurry. So Flurry is a 30-second cooldown. It's going to unleash a flurry of ice, striking the target 3 times. And each hit is going to reduce the target's movement speed. Then we have Cold Snap. So this is going to reset the cooldown of our Ice Barrier, Frost Nova, Cone of Cold, and Ice Block. This is a 5-minute cooldown. It's useful. I don't find it to be super useful in open world like solo content unless you're going to be doing like big crazy pools. This is definitely useful in PvP for sure. And potentially useful in scenarios for PvE where you do need to use your like Frost Nova or like Ice Barrier repetitively. So then this looks like a active ability, but it's not, so we're going to skip that one. We've got Icy Veins, so 3-minute cooldown, accelerates your spell casting for 20 seconds, granting haste and preventing damage from delaying your spell cast. Very good. 3 minutes is outside the window of what I like these DPS style cooldowns to be at for open world content. I prefer them to be closer to 2. We may be able to reduce the cooldown on that. We'll see. But it is very good to use against like a rare spawn or elite targets. However, that cooldown is pretty long, so if we can take some things that benefit us more often, we probably would. We have Comet Storm. So this calls down a series of 7 icy comets around the target that deal up to 3,000 frost damage to all enemies within 6 yards of its impact. That's actually pretty cool. That's a nice little chunk of damage there. It doesn't say if that damage is split between all enemies or if it does that damage to all enemies. I would imagine it's split, but it doesn't say that, so we'd have to see through testing. But I do like that. Nice little 30-second cooldown. We can use that a lot as we're out there, questing and killing things. So pretty nice. We have Ray of Frost, so a 1.3-minute cooldown. You're going to channel an Icy Beam, which deals damage and slows movement speed. Each time it deals damage, the damage and snare increases, and this generates 2 charges of Fingers of Frost, which I don't believe we've gotten to yet. It should be a passive during its duration. So again, this is a pretty nice ability. This is 1.3-minute cooldown, a little bit longer, but it does a huge chunk of damage to a single target. So very nice against, again, like elite mobs or rare spawns or that kind of stuff. And then finally, we have Glacial Spike. So this is going to conjure a massive spike of ice, merge all your icicles into it, and then impale the target, doing a bunch of damage plus all the damage of your icicles. And this is also going to freeze the target in place for 4 seconds. So you have to have 5 icicles to cast this. And then this also changes it so that Ice Lance will no longer launch your icicles. So it's a different finisher. I actually really do like Glacial Spike. I like the gameplay of it. So I could see potentially taking this. So based on what I've seen here with the active abilities, a lot of them are right up here at the top. So we're probably going to end up getting them anyway. Comet Storm sounds super cool. I like Glacial Spike in that gameplay. Ray of Frost, totally viable. And like I said, Icy Veins is just too long of a cooldown for me to want to really invest in it unless we can reduce the cooldown or get some other like really good benefit out of it. That being said, it does lead into Ray of Frost and Glacial Spike, so I could potentially see taking that. All right, next we're going to take a look at our choice nodes. So the first one here, we have a choice between Ebon Bolt, so a 45-second cooldown that is going to launch a bolt and grant us Brain Freeze, which we have not seen yet. It's right here. Or Frostbolt grants you Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze more often. Okay, so let's take a look at these real quick. We're going to kind of jump ahead a little bit. So Fingers of Frost, Frostbolt has a 15% chance and Frozen Orb has a 10% chance to grant Fingers of Frost. Fingers of Frost causes your next Ice Lance to deal damage as if the target was frozen. And as we know, that damage of Ice Lance is going to be tripled against frozen targets. So we do really like having this ability. And then Brain Freeze causes your Frostbolt to have a 30% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Flurry and increase your next Flurry to deal 50% increased damage. So remember, Flurry has a 30-second cooldown and it hits 3 times and reduces the target's movement speed. So what we have here is that launching a bolt of ice at the enemy deals frost damage and gives us Brain Freeze with Ebon Bolt, which we can then throw into a Flurry for increased damage. Or here, Frostbolt will grant you Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze 20% more often. Personally, I think I would probably take Frozen Touch as just a passive way to get Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze more often, especially at low gear levels where our stats aren't going to be as great. So just being able to get those the frozen damage increases and, all that kind of stuff is going to be really nice. So pretty good choice node in my opinion. All right, so next we have Lonely Winter. So you can no longer summon your Water Elemental, but your Frost, Bolt, Ice Lance, and Flurry deal increased damage. Or summon Water Elemental, which will summon your Water Elemental. Then we have a choice node here, Improved Blizzard. So each time Blizzard deals damage, the cooldown of Frozen Orb is reduced. Or Focus Frost, which is not yet implemented. Frozen Orb deals additional 100% damage when hitting only one target. And then finally down here at the bottom, we have a choice between Freezing Winds. While Frozen Orb is active, you gain Fingers of Frost every 2 seconds. And then while Icy Veins is active, each Frostbolt you cast reduces the cast time of Frostbolt and increases its damage. So kind of like a Frostbolt steroid there that we can get. Okay, so again, like looking into the choice nodes, I mean, I think we're definitely going to want to either take Water Elemental. I always say Water Elemental. Water Elemental. We're either going to want to take that to have the pet, or we're going to want to take Lonely Winter. So I think we're going to go down this middle path, like regardless, to get one of those. They're just too beneficial, right? Water Elemental gives you a little pet that can fight with you, maybe do a little tanking and stuff like that, help you freeze stuff. And then Lonely Winter just gives you 25% increased damage on the spells that you use most of the time. Like, definitely want to take one of those. I also do like the Frozen Touch over here. That's pretty nice. I could just leave both of these. I'm not super concerned with those. And then same kind of thing down here. So at the moment, I'm kind of leaning towards coming to the left and then going back over to the right, I think, for some of this stuff. But we'll see how that plays out, because now we're going to get into looking at the passives that are available. So we've already looked at Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze. Here we've got Shatter rank 2. So Shatter increases your chance to deal critical strike by an additional 25%. That seems super useful. It's also not yet implemented, so it won't apply, but I like that a lot. Here we have Winter's Chill. Each hit of Flurry will now apply Winter's Chill to the target. Winter's Chill causes the target to take damage from your spells as if it were frozen. So we can opt into a more Flurry-centric build that gives us Winter's Chill, and Winter's Chill is going to be similar to Fingers of Frost in that we can go this direction and still cast Ice Lance and get the triple damage against the targets. So also pretty nice. Here, this gives your chill effects a 10% chance to freeze the target for 4 seconds. Now, I think I like this in general because we have taken Shatter, so our critical strike chance of our spells is going to be multiplied against frozen targets. So we pick that up there. And then we can get that extra rank there again. So I think just like randomly freezing enemies is really, really good here. And then we have Arctic Piercing. Frostbolt critical strikes empower Ice Lance, increasing the damage dealt by 10% for 6 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So we're going to want to go down the middle. We want to have Blizzard for AoE. We're going to grab Cold Snap in order to get into one of these 2 talents. And then I think we definitely want to get Fingers of Frost. We'll grab Shatter even though it's not implemented. And I think we're going to grab both of these potentially. It depends on this down here. Over here, we'll get Frozen Orb Flurry. So that gets us into the next tier. So we are going to want to pick up Brain Freeze here, I believe. But let's take a look at the abilities, the passives we have on this next tree. So as I said, good node here. Node we definitely want to take here. This is either or. It comes down to preference. I think we're going to pick up Lonely Winter for right now and just kind of go solo, no pet build. So we've got Bone Chilling. Whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, increasing spell damage you deal by 0.5% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. So you are attempting to chill things a lot. So that is just, you know, stacking spell damage of 5%. That's decent. We've got your Frostbolt deals 20% additional damage to frozen targets. And it looks like this is 2 points, so we can get it up to 40%. Very nice. We are trying to freeze things and, you know, everything else. So that is pretty nice. That would make us want to pick up Winter's Chill because it's, yeah, we probably want to pick up Winter's Chill here. As well. So then we can Flurry. That might make us want to opt out of like Icebound. We'll have to see, right? But if we're going to take that, then I think investing in Winter's Chill, I mean, that just might be good anyway. So then we have Perpetual Winter, which gives Flurry 2 charges. We've got Winter Tide, increases Frostbolt damage by 5%. Fingers of Frost empowers Ice Lances to deal 10% increased damage to frozen targets. This looks like a 3-point ability, so it should be 15% Frostbolt damage, and then Fingers of Frost empowering Ice Lance to deal 30% increased damage to frozen targets. Yes. Okay. Blizzard has a chance to increase the damage of your next cone of cold by 6%, stacking up to 30 times. Each of your Icicles deals 10% additional damage. When an Icicle deals damage, you have a 5% chance to gain the Fingers of Frost effect. Okay. Your Frost spells deal 10% more damage to targets that are rooted and frozen. So, rooted and frozen, not just frozen. That one is, that one's okay. Like, our Ice Nova is gonna root them. I'm not sure if all of... Yeah, they need to actually be rooted. So this doesn't apply to things that are being treated as frozen through like Fingers of Frost or Winter's Chill. Okay. We have Flurry has a chance to strike, has a chance on each strike to call down an Icy Comet, crashing into your target and nearby enemies for 15 frost damage. That's super low. That number's got to be off. And then Frostbolt and Flurry have a chance to generate 15 Icicles. What? Okay. There's a lot going on here. And so what I'm starting to see is that what appeared at first to be a pretty simple, straightforward, let's just do what Frost Mage does sort of build here is now turning into something where you can like go really hard into like Flurry, or you could go really hard into like... I'm seeing some different ways we could do things here, potentially. So I think we need to continue on and see what the rest of these passives are. All right, Frozen Orb makes Blizzard instant cast. So to be like perfectly clear here, I'm not super interested in the Frozen Orb Blizzard version of this build. I will make it at some point and test it out, but generally... I don't consider myself a good enough mage player to do big pulls. I don't know that I have the dexterity for it. So I prefer to keep my pulls between 1 to 3 enemies and just kind of shred them down. Whereas Frozen Orb and Blizzard, you know, you're talking about 5+ enemies that you're trying to pull, and there are plenty of people that can do that, but I don't consider myself one of those people. So I'm personally not really interested in the Frozen Orb Blizzard sort of builds here. While Icy Veins is active, you're damaging single target spell critical hits, reduce its cooldown, so that's fine. Splitting Ice, your Ice Lance and Icicles now deal increased damage and hit a second nearby targets. Your Ebon Bolt and Glacial Spike also hit a second nearby target, so that's very nice if you're going to go for like the Glacial Spike build, depending on whether or not you're pulling multiple enemies. Fractured Frost, your Frostbolt has a chance to hit up to 2 additional targets. I think this is just going to improve the percentage, but it might improve the amount of targets as well. That's going to go into casting 30 Frostbolts or Flurries, calls down a Frozen Orb towards your target. Hitting an enemy player counts as double. So that is also cool. If you get 3 points per Flurry, I still don't know if we would want that. That seems much more useful in like a dungeon scenario or potentially PvP. Not so much on like open world questing where we're just going to kill stuff way before we get to 30 Frostbolts or 30 Flurries. Okay, so we can increase the duration of Icy Veins, and then that takes us into this choice node, which I'm not super interested in. We do have Icy Veins grants a charge of Brain Freeze and Fingers of Frost, so a way to pump up Icy Veins here. Your Ice Lances against frozen targets increase the damage of your Ice Lances by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Looks like that can go up to 2%, and that leads into Icy Veins duration is increased by 10 seconds, and your Ice Lances against frozen targets extend your Icy Veins by an additional 1 second. So again, kind of going into this Icy Veins loop, which I'm not particularly interested in. And then here, casting Ice Lance on frozen targets has a 50% chance to generate an Icicle. Okay. So, I'm thinking we're going to go along the left and along the right side, potentially. I'm thinking we go down to get Comet Storm. And I think that I kind of want to go for this. Flurry has 2 charges, can call down a Comet into Comet Storm. So we just have like a lot of Comet stuff going on. And then over on this side, let's see. I'm not sure. Do we want to go down into... It's a lot of... We need to invest 8 points. So if we went 1, 2, 3... 4, 5. Right, so this is going to get us Frostbolt, Critical Strikes, and Power Ice Lance, increasing damage, stacking up to 3 times. Whenever you attempt to chill a target, you gain Bone Chilling, which increases your spell damage. Each Icicle deals additional damage, and when an Icicle deals damage, you have a chance to gain Fingers of Frost. And then Frostbolt and Flurry have a chance to generate 30 Icicles, which is insane. And we got 3 points left, so I think we get Brain Freeze, we get Winter's Chill, and then we get Frozen Touch. All right, so then here, I'm thinking Comet Storm, but let's see. Ice Lance and Icicles deal increased damage and hit a second nearby target. Ebon Bolt and Glacial Spike also hit a second target. That's 1 point. Then we would have 2 points into Hailstones. Casting Ice Lance on frozen targets has a chance to generate an Icicle. 1 point into Glacial Spike, and then we can pick up Comet Storm. I think like that is what I would want to try initially, right? And I may totally change this, but let's go ahead and apply this. All right, let's sort out our spells, and then we'll come back and take a look at the mechanics that we have going on here. So we've got our Cold Snap, we've got our Shifting Power, we've got Frozen Orb, Remove Curse. All right, here, mirror image, Got our little Ice Nova there. Okay. We've got Glacial Spike. Comet Storm. Flurry. Ice Barrier. We do have Fire Blast, which I don't think we're going to use, but I have found occasionally that having Fire Blast as an instant cast to finish off an enemy instead of casting a spell can be nice if you don't want to waste a charge of like Flurry or like one of your more important spells. We're probably not going to use Arcane Explosion, so I'm going to leave this here. We probably won't need it, but like I said, I've found it to occasionally be useful. All right, so we're going to be casting Frostbolt. Then we want to make sure we have access to our Flurry. And then we're also going to want to have Ice Lance, Glacial Spike, and then we have Blizzard. So not too many spells, but we should have a lot going on with these spells. So if we come in and just glancing real quick, we've got the multiply critical strike chance of spells against frozen targets and 50% increased critical strike chance there, which I think we are getting from Shatter rank 2, actually, but we'll see. We've got a bunch of like ways to freeze things with Frost Nova, which we're not going to be doing. We did pump up Frost Nova. We're not really going to worry about that against the target dummy here. So we've got additional charges and all that kind of stuff. We do have Shifting Power, which I think in this particular build, we would probably use just to reduce the cooldowns of our abilities. Basically, when we blow big cooldowns, then we would Shifting Power to reduce those cooldowns for us. Let's go ahead and change this up real quick. So we got 30 seconds, we've got 1 minute, 5 minutes, 25 seconds, and then 1 minute. Okay. So then over here, okay, we've got all our different abilities that we picked up, the active ones. So we've got our Fingers of Frost. So Frostbolt has a chance, which we're going to focus on Frostbolt here, not Frozen Orb. Frostbolt has an 18% chance to grant Fingers of Frost, which makes our next Ice Lance deal damage to the target as if it were frozen. We basically don't want to cast Ice Lance unless we have Fingers of Frost. We can stack up to 2 charges of Fingers of Frost. Okay. Coming down, we got the Shatter increase. We've got the Chill effects have a chance to freeze the target. So that is going to be our Frostbolt. That's going to be Flurry. And I believe that's going to be the 2 main ones that we're going to be casting regularly that are going to have a 10% chance to freeze the target. Which means that even if we don't have Fingers of Frost, our Ice Lance will deal damage as if the target were frozen. However, again, we probably would still wait for Fingers of Frost because the target being frozen does still just give a benefit to the rest of our spells as well. Then we have Frostbolt Critical Strikes, which, again, if the target's frozen, we're going to have increased critical chance against the target. Can empower Ice Lance, increasing the damage. Over here, we have each hit of Flurry applies Winter's Chill, which causes the target to take damage from your spells as if it were frozen. Hopefully that does increase the crit chance. It doesn't specifically say that, but I would assume that it would work that way. Then we have Brain Freeze, where Frostbolt has a chance to reset the cooldown on Flurry and cause the next Flurry to deal increased damage. So we can go ahead and use a charge of Flurry after we cast Frostbolt or before in order to get it onto cooldown and have the chance to reset it. So we can open with Flurry if we want, just with the instant damage, or we can open with a Frostbolt and then hit Flurry right after. Sometimes you want to get that cast time in before you start attacking the enemy, and that's totally fine. Frostbolt should give us Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze more often. Whenever we attempt to chill a target, which again is going to be mainly our Frostbolt and Flurry for just kind of the standard rotation here, we gain Bone Chilling, which it should increase the spell damage that we deal. Then we have each Icicle deals additional damage, and when an Icicle deals damage, we have a chance to gain Fingers of Frost again, which is very nice. We've got our Flurry has a chance to call down an Icy Comet. We got Frostbolt and Flurry have a chance to generate 30 Icicles randomly, which is insane and would be amazing for Glacial Spike to just fling. I mean, we gotta see what happens when we have. Well, I guess the 30 Icicles should just fling 25 of them instantly, because anything above 5 just gets thrown automatically. So that'll still be crazy. I'm really hoping we get to see that in the against the target dummy here. We do have our Comet Storm, which is just going to deal damage. We got Splitting Ice, so our Ice Lance and Icicles deal increased damage and hit a second nearby target. And also our Glacial Spike will hit a second nearby target. And then casting Ice Lance on frozen targets has a 100% chance to generate an Icicle. So that's going to help us reload our Icicles a lot faster. So basically what we're doing here is we are casting our Frostbolt and Flurry kind of interchangeably. We are casting Ice Lance anytime we get the proc where it's going to deal damage against frozen targets. And then when we get our 5 Icicles, then we will cast Glacial Spike. Along the way, we just hope we get a lot of crits. We freeze the targets for a lot of the bonuses. And then also hope that we randomly generate 30 Icicles. So let's go give it a shot. Just kind of doing the basics here. Let's say we open with a Frostbolt. Right? Then we get the Flurry perk there, which is nice. We go back into Frostbolt. Boom. We could do Frostbolt again, or we could Flurry. All right, we've got max Icicles, so we cast Glacial Spike. Do a big chunk of damage. We kind of go back into our rotation here. We did get the perk there, which was nice. All right, so we did get the Ice Lance into Glacial Spike. All right. So what you're going to notice here is this is going to be a lot slower than Fire's rotation. But generally, Frost is going to hit like pretty hard. And also work quite well against multiple targets. All right, so if we don't want to just cast Frostbolt the entire time here, which we could, then we do have the option to work in our other abilities. So don't forget we have Ice Nova on a 25-second cooldown. So if we scooch ourselves up here, the enemy's probably going to be close to us in open world content. We could do that. Now all of a sudden our Ice Lance is going to hit against a frozen target. All right, we also do have, let's go ahead and cast our Glacial Spike. We do have the ability to cast our Comet Storm. All right, drop all those comets down. That's pretty solid damage that we're getting there. All right. I'm looking for the comets from Flurry. I haven't seen them yet. There we go. Okay, we just got one. Cool. Now I want to see, can we proc the crazy, 30 Icicles thing? So that can proc from Frostbolt and Flurry. Okay. I wonder if it's not yet implemented. It doesn't say it. But I mean, a 30% chance, I feel like we should have seen it by now. But we're not seeing it. Yeah, like a 30% chance, we definitely should have seen it by now. Glacial Assault. So that was our meteor one, right? Yes. So still haven't seen it. We are getting Glacial Assaults like decently often, which is nice. I guess the other thing to remember when you're playing Frost as well is that one of the trade-offs for the slower casting and stuff compared to fire is the fact that you are just kind of like freezing things a lot more often, and they're a lot less likely to deal damage to you. So I'm not seeing this like icicle thing happen like at all. So I'm gonna stop trying to get it here because I feel like at this point it's just not, it's either not implemented or like the tooltips aren't reading, or not the tooltip, the combat log isn't picking it up correctly. Because I feel like, you know, if you see 25 like icicles or something in the combat log, wow, that was a lot of meteors. But look at how often the target is being frozen. Like, I think that's pretty huge. Like, the target is staying frozen a good amount of the time. And we're not even really, like, using our... We're not even really, like, using our frozen abilities too much. Let's see, is it showing up in the combat tooltip? Let's see, Frostbolt. So we're gonna go past. Okay, so yeah, it does say icicle hit, icicle hit. So yeah, we should have seen like 25 just icicles hit. If I'm reading that correctly, which I think I am, right? You know, anything above 5 is supposed to launch automatically. So it should have been just 20, just icicle, icicle, icicle in the combat log. That being said, yeah, this is the build that I think right now I would go out to test in open world content. You know, I think there's like definitely some other ways you could go about this. I just feel like, you know, this one, it keeps things pretty simple. I think the damage that we have here, the slows, the freezes and everything is going to make this build like really good at just not taking a lot of damage. And also, honestly, Frost does tend to kill things fairly quickly with a lot of the crits and the big hits and the crit chance against frozen targets and stuff. So we are going to take every specialization out into the open world, do some quests and stuff, test it out, see if we want to tweak it or change it or what we want to do with it. I'm going to be doing those videos as live streams so that hopefully you guys can tune in and participate in those, you know, ask questions, point out things that I miss, you know, all that kind of good stuff. So hopefully you can tune into those. And I think that's all I have for this video. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching it, and I'll see you on the next one.